Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Art School Graduates Podcast. My name is Justin Robinson.
And I'm Badir McCleary, and we are now on episode 9. Man, we are
Yes,
we are getting there. It's toward the end of the year. We're finishing up strong, and I'm enjoying this. What about you, Justin?
I'm learning a lot. I,
Me
I
too.
feel that I am learning a lot on both sides through personal research and
Hmm.
for topics that relate to what we're going to speak on. Like this topic, for example, I think it was 2 weeks ago. We spoke on Art Basel, and we spoke on collecting, and we spoke on numbers and figuring and costing and understanding all this. And then luckily, having a partner like Badir who knows everything art dropped a gem in my Google Docs. And ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about a survey of global collecting in 2022. My novice understanding of it, and then I'm gonna let the master break it down, is basically it breaks down who's collecting, what's getting collected, where the money is going, what kind of shows are happening, and the sustainability of all this, how all this is going to work. So, Badir, break down this survey of global collecting in 2022.
Yeah, so it started out as a it's USB. I'm thinking my tech, the UBS report, which UBS is a finance company. It's prepared by Dr. Claire McAndrew, who is the founder of Arts Economics, economic company that does a brilliant job for years on surveying the art market and just different factors and findings inside the market that I use personally for research. And being that season 2, we want to get a little bit deeper into understanding the market practice.
Absolutely.
Season 1 was us introducing y'all to who we are and all of these
Mm-hmm.
topics that we will be covering. But in season 2, we want to dive into topics a little bit more intricate, like this one. So the global survey, the art market report, it's what I find interesting about it is that, like Justin said, you find out where the money is going. You find out what the numbers are truly, and of course the survey is, you're asking questions, you're getting
Yep.
focus groups and all of these types of things. So the data comes, with a grain of salt. These are people answering questions, hopefully as honestly as possible.
Yeah.
Um, but
Without being padded, without it
without,
being
yeah,
padded.
yeah, and I like to think that there's a plus or minus of, what, 5 or 10%.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still better than nothing, you
Right.
know. Um, so every time I get a chance to look at these, and even if you get a chance to hear Dr. Claire McAndrew talk, they usually do it around Art Basel time with her and UBS. And even when the art market report is released, it's a really cool conversation. She brings another economist, and they kind of break down the art market in a way that's not usually taught or seen by the average art lover.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, like it's let's just jump right into it, right?
Okay.
Um, One of the things I usually look at is when you look into key findings, you look at HNW collector spending. HNW in this regard is high net worth. So when we're thinking about high net worth collectors, what are we talking about? Our millionaires,
Billionaires.
our
Yeah.
billionaires, maybe someone with, let's be generous, over $1 million in capital,
Okay.
to at least spend. It's probably way more than that, high net worth.
Mm-hmm.
You could lose $1 and not be a millionaire no more if you have $1 million. So looking at it, in that way, because to be fair, millionaires and billionaires, the money holds up the market.
Right.
It's we would love to think that the art does, and in a lot of cases it does, but that collector spending, what would the art world be without collectors? It would, be a bunch of us possibly running around crazy, painting on a bunch of stuff,
Just
and calling
losing
it
it.
whatever we want to call it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you're before we dive into this a little bit more, what was your first reaction on seeing something like this? And, just as a teacher, knowing that something like this exists.
Super detailed. Like
Mm-hmm.
it literally breaks down everything. Like you do have, I do have a few questions about it. No, seeing that this is my first time
Mhm.
experienced something like this and using this. But it was interesting to see the numbers, because a lot of
Yeah.
times for me it just comes down to numbers. What makes sense? Like, I believe it was during Art Basel we talked about art fairs, and then
Mhm.
literally, what is this, probably page 19, where, as I was
Mhm.
reading through, they have graphs on the total number of art fairs within the last 4 years, and where they're located, how many there are. And it just blows
Yeah.
my mind that there's like so many huge live events
Mhm.
versus online events. Like,
Yeah.
even during COVID, the numbers for live events were still huge.
Yeah, pretty much like almost equal,
Like they didn't even go away. It's like, what are you guys
Yeah.
doing at these things? There's no way. What do you guys do? Sitting in your yacht, r-
Right?
holding your paddle up for your art piece? It was crazy, but it was.
And quickly on that, you know what's really cool about that graph? And as we start to get more into this, like we look at 2019,
Mhm.
there's no online events.
None.
So we're seeing 2020 in these numbers as that kind of a market, interruption, if you will. We're not going to say shift, because
Right.
as we looking at the numbers, we can see that it obviously wasn't a quick shift. It was just a hiatus into something that was filling that gap
Mhm.
during that moment. So in 2020, when we look at art fairs, for example, there was a total of 205 fairs total.
Mhm.
130 of them are live events, like in Art Basel. People are in
Yeah.
person, they're going to see things. 75 of them was online. That
Yeah.
that percentage is almost 40 something percent, in just a year. And going
Yeah.
to the next year, when they come out of it, 253 are live and now only 31 online.
And now this year there's less than 1%.
Yeah, there's only one.
Oh, there's only one. I thought that said less than
Yeah,
one.
yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because
Yeah.
that's the global total. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're looking at one. Well, I guess let's to be fair, this is one online fair that they either surveyed or recognized. We're sure that
Okay.
there are other online fairs, NFT fairs that have happened that maybe weren't included in the survey, just to be
Right.
fair. So
Okay.
there's that plus and minus of 5 or 10%, but it's still staggering.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, well, where did this go? Did that really flame out in a year and a half? Were they not beneficial?
I don't think they were not beneficial. I think they were pivoting to that major rush of people wanting to get out. There,
Mm-hmm.
so and so's having a fair. Where? New York. Okay, let's go. Soho District. Let's go. Oh, Art Basel. Where? It's gonna be in Miami. Okay, let's go. There's another Art Basel. Where? London. Let's go. Like, everybody was on this. Like, we were locked up for 2 years. Let us go. So I
Yeah.
think everybody was trying to have their art fair and just get in on that exponential wealth that we were speaking on before. Like, all these billionaires who were just sitting in their houses, now they can actually move around. They may be the ones who could, like, go to not 338, probably 150 of them. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I think people, or a lot of art shows, were banking on just having people show up.
Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
mean,
Just to be a part of it.
yeah. I mean, but you got to think about it, like, 338, or what was, I'm sorry, is it 338 or was it 238? Let me
Three
verify. Looking at the
338 for 2022.
338 fairs. Like, how is the art? I guess the better question is, what's the quality level of every single fair? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's funny.
Like,
I
is it,
think
are you getting, are we in fair overdrive? You know what I mean? Like, is it too much?
I think it might be too much. But like I said, they're just trying to be one of those that gets someone to show up to it. You know what I mean? I think it's a grasp at straws, because if you think about it, bro, there's only 365 days in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally had 338 shows this year.
This
That
year.
that
Yeah.
only leaves
That's
27
fairs.
days.
That's not
That's
even
fairs.
gallery shows.
No,
That's
no,
fairs.
fairs, bro. That leaves 27 days where there was nothing going on. So what is that? 27 days? That's your days of travel? Like, I don't.
That's like every Monday in a year they took off.
Yeah,
almost.
almost.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, like they just took off on the Monday and say, all
yeah.
right, we're back to doing fairs every day from then, 6 days a week almost.
I
It's
think
kind of
it.
ridiculous.
I think it becomes diluted
Yeah.
because it just who first off, I there with when it comes to billionaires, we understand time is money for them. There's no
Mhm.
way they're going to 338 art fairs. Sorry.
Oh no.
And I know that they're going to send out, they probably have an assistant or someone that's checking these fairs to see what's going to be on show,
Hmm.
what's going to be for sale. And I think by so many fairs, they're going to start to see the same repeated stuff. And I feel that they're probably looking for something new to invest in. It's like, yeah, all right, I got a Basquiat already. All right, I got four of them. I got a Warhol already. All right, I got six of them. Like I already have like, so they're probably looking for something that's super, super rare. Like, for example, the Portland Trail Blazers owner. Now
Hmm.
that was a super rare showing.
Hmm. Hmm.
They went to that. I guarantee you they went to that. That
Oh yeah.
he had how many pieces did he have? I can't
Uh,
remember.
it's a couple hundred.
Yeah, it was almost like I want to say 300 or 400 rare
Something like
pieces.
that. Yeah, we got to check back on those numbers, but
But it sold for 1.6 billion.
yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
they went to that one. Like I feel like they had to do a lot of vetting to do all that, but I don't think the majority of these were large. They couldn't be.
Yeah.
There's
I
not
mean,
I
the,
don't think
the
so.
the vetting process, is very, very key when it comes to something like that. It's like when you want to invest in, a upcoming IPO or something like that, and you have to be an accredited investor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's these accredited buyers. Every gallery dealer or curator knows them. Every
Mhm.
auction house for sure knows them. Because that accreditation. I think that is reported in these numbers, which one of the things I'm looking at now and under these high net worth collector things, and the key findings is that buying at higher prices also increased,
Of course.
which is interesting because it's like is it one of those things to where like is the work getting better because it's gaining the value, or are people just wanting to buy the most expensive piece for a social type of currency? Are they using actual currency for social currency still in the way of just inflating these prices? What
I
does
think
that truly mean?
I think it's social currency.
Oh, of
It
course.
it has to be. It creates a like we said before, it creates that conversation piece. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I was the one that bought that thing at Christie's. You did,
But,
yeah.
but is it to your point though, like to where they were so cooped up in the house during the pandemic that this has just become a spending thing? Because they also say those same collectors or the same group of collectors were buying works priced at over 1 million, doubled from 12% to 23%, 23, 24%
uh,
in the first half of 2022, against similar levels of 2019. Are people just like, I need to get out and spend money? You know what I mean? Because that's what the most part of the market's reflecting. What do you think? Because I definitely think that they,
hmm.
tax, it's a whole, let me just hear what you got to say first before I go crazy.
I know one of the things you're gonna say, and I was gonna say, the taxes were very light over COVID. They kind of gave a few
Hmm.
people passes, and they know they're gonna have to start paying Uncle Sam, and so they had to find a way to write off a lot of it. So that's why they parked so much money into these pieces. But I
Hmm.
also think I don't think it was just a spending thing per
Yeah.
se. I think it was more of a um like let me see what's out there, because you have to understand they couldn't go and see these pieces. So they want to see how rare these pieces are. You know,
True.
that's what they're going for. I think they're going to see the rareness of them. I feel like a lot of rare pieces came out because you have to think, look how much the numbers dropped by. What was it? 130, 253. You went from 360 and 219 to 2020, 130 to 2021, 253. So you have to understand a lot of these pieces probably were just stored away until people could come
Yeah.
see them. So I think it was more of what's the scarcity looking like what pieces are popping up that might have sold probably in 2020 or 2021 that, were just locked away.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but like with the value, I mean, like how often do those type of collections come about, right? There's that one collection, I don't think is going to average out most of those pieces to like double than 2019. I think for one, people are, overpricing some works. Like they're definitely like I think a lot of works are overpriced. There's a lot of
Don't forget the
dealers.
underpricing too. We had
Oh,
that
yeah,
happen.
we already know that. We already
Yeah.
know. And there's a lot of dealers and galleries that are, trying to get the most out of a certain artist's career in a short window, to where a lot of the pricing just kind of escalates really, really quickly.
Hmm.
And a lot of the work doesn't necessarily back it up all the time.
Right.
Um, what is that fair? No. But that's the market.
Yeah.
Like the market's going to demand what it demands. Just like, you know, I get sometimes wary when I see an artist that has like 15 straight different shows in different places. And I'm like, man, can they really produce the work that's going to are they being rushed into producing some market ready work that's overall going to hurt them
I
to
don't
satisfy this segment of this, art population?
I feel like they probably had time to create and they're just sitting on tons of work. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just going through the portfolio, going through the storage closet and looking at canvases and seeing if it's worth it or not for many of the artists that are probably putting out like this, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I've always been curious about is like what is the age range of these artists that are getting bought? Are they the
It's probably in here.
19, is it 19 to 30, or is it more of the 50, 60, 70, and 80-year olds? Because it's like you
Mm-hmm.
have to think, if it's the age gap is so crazy that some of these people are either have passed on or have recently transitioned, it's like, okay, so you're buying up all these artworks from somebody who was creating for over 60, 70 years
Mm-hmm.
versus buying artwork from someone who's been creating for 15 years. So you're
Mm-hmm.
going to get a larger, catalog of work than someone who's been doing it for 15 years. Because in 15 years, you might have changed it up, what, two or three times, but over 50 years, you're going to see a gradual change from once they started to where they ended. And you're going to see that whole birth of idea and creation and process through their work. So I
Yeah.
think that's something that probably should be asked is what is the age range of the piece of the artist that they're buying, because that's something I would be curious to see.
I mean, I think that is interesting because like when you talk about, these ranges, like if we say an artist that, is recently passed, whether they're older or they're younger, I think of an artist like Matthew Wong. Matthew Wong was a really, really good artist. And he passed away a few years ago recently, and his market, took off.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things to where it goes back to your scarcity point, to where it's like, now, unfortunately, we won't get any more beautiful artworks from this artist.
Mm-hmm.
From the artist that has a 3-year career that's amazing or a 60-year career that's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a collector or a person that's valuing those works can look at that with a higher appreciation level or a higher value level because they know out of these pile of available works, there'll never be any more added to it. So
Mm.
in that regard, I can see a price jump. Like when we
Mhm.
talked about with the Paul Allen collection, you had some iconic works in there that is like, yo, these artists ain't making these again. And even if they're still alive, who's to say that they're even in that point in their life to reproduce that type of feeling? We know the world's changed around them,
Oh,
so you
yes.
can do that. So it's really interesting, to see how, like you said, that the age group or the factor of living or deceased artists affects that number. Because you're right,
Right.
maybe in 2022 more works came to the market where artists were deceased, and
Mhm.
you had to pay premium for it and had to increase that number. So I think that's a great point. And maybe, a further deep dive into that. Maybe it talks about it, or if it doesn't, maybe it should. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a great, point. Um, yeah, one of the things is that, kind of like going back to our other conversation that with Art Basel, is said that in the first half of 2022, 93% of those high net worth collectors bought art through a dealer, a gallery, either directly, online, or via a fair. Dealers accounted for 30% of their overall expenditure in 2022, 13% at galleries, 10% via online, and 7% by phone or email. A further 15% of spending was through dealers at art fairs, for a total of 45% through dealers at channels. And auction dealers are through all channels, I'm sorry. And auctions accounted for a further 17% of the total, down from 20% in 2021. Do you think that the gallery is making a comeback?
Man, bro, all those numbers and percentages and all that stuff. I To someone who doesn't have it, man, I'm telling you right now, hearing all those numbers, it just sounds like a lot of people just had some money to buy.
Hmm.
I don't think galleries are making a comeback. I feel like galleries are pushing out like whatever
Hmm.
they have because they know it's a buyer's market right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like price it high and let's get it going. I don't think it's galleries are making a comeback per se, because it's like hearing all those numbers and reading all this information. And I know our listeners are probably like, what the heck did Badir just say? And I'm telling you, he's talking it and I'm reading it. And I'm telling you, it's a lot. So that's why I'm like, it just sounds like a lot of galleries were just on trend and they just caught that good gust of wind and they're riding it out, pushing out everything they have, either to make
Yeah.
way for new stuff or to become one of those premier galleries where it's like, oh, we sold 18 paintings and those 18 paintings were over 2.7 million. So it's like
Yeah.
that'll make people want to come to your gallery and show at your gallery because it's like, oh, wait, you're selling. Okay. So it's
Yeah.
like, I feel like they're just like, okay, we got to start getting, remember how we had the conversation of getting new blood in there, getting
Mm-hmm.
fresh ideas, getting new creating, getting new creators in there and pushing them out. I think this was their way of like just cleaning out the closet to make
Yeah.
way for new stuff. That's what I got from all that, because it just seems like what you said, they were priced high. A lot of them were priced extremely high, but the way these collectors went about it is just like the breakdown. They either went in person, through via email or text, through a gallery, through so and so, through this. And it just seems like everybody was just on that wave of let's just get this crap out of here, bro, so we can get some new stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like I look at it, for it's like, all right, 45%, still going through traditional channels, right? Dealers, galleries. What I really wonder is how many of those quote unquote dealers are, self small business, artists, because they're themselves dealers as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, in that 45%, is it 10 of them the artists themselves? Because I know a lot of artists who sell their own work,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also one of those things to where it's like, all right, if 10% and 13% of the market, or let's say 10% of the market is online and 13% is, at the gallery specific, because the other 30% was just pretty much through a dealer. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
say whether they're in a space or not. does the reason why I asked, was galleries making a comeback, is like kind of sarcastic in a way, because it's like, do you really need to have an exhibition space? And this is the question I've been asking myself for the last year, to really be a successful art salesperson? Or as an artist, does your dealer need to have a space for you to trust them? Is that channel still a relevant channel, for art exhibition and sales? What do you think?
Uh, yes and no, because
Mm-hmm.
you have to think a lot of the billionaires, they're not. the young, hip, into technology type of billionaires, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of them probably use the traditional ways of going through
Yeah,
their
relationship.
relationships, people they've built relationships with through the art community and all that. But I, and that's why I said that half, yeah. But then the other half to me is more of, if you can become tech savvy and understand how to use social media not as a entertainment but more of a business, you
Mhm.
can advertise yourself. And you just
Mhm.
have to make sure, because you have to think, you have a ton of young tech billionaires coming up through the
Mhm.
Facebooks, through the Twitters, through the through TikTok, through all these different platforms. And it's like, oh, snaps. Like, they all know how to use this stuff, and they're using it very much the proper way of
Yeah.
like, let me see who I can find. Let me see who's doing what different, who's where. So that's why I said it's 50-50 for me, because it's like, I think that they're kind of in this space where it's like it's kind of even,
Mhm.
because you still have those old billionaires that do it the traditional way, but you have your young billionaires who are doing it the non-traditional way, going through like the social media. It's kind of like what we talked about last week. Like, what is the new museum going to look like? So
Mhm.
on top of asking what the new museum is going to look like, is how are you going to get these new pieces? How are you going to get these pieces from these new artists in these museums? Okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about it. So it's like things like that, where it's like, you have the old school and you have new school. So I think it's kind of very much in the middle for
I
for
think
this
it's
process.
I think we're in a pretty interesting, time period when it comes to art galleries, and even just using those numbers as an example, to where if the majority of a market does not need that space to show or to you know make that transaction, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Is it artists that have names to where you don't need an exhibition? You don't need an exhibition to sell a Picasso. You
No.
don't need an exhibition. I'm sorry, to sell a Basquiat, to sell a Warhol. If you have the right paperwork and it's the right artwork, you
Mm-hmm.
can sell that to any willing and available buyer.
Mm-hmm.
It's the new emerging artists that really depend on the gallery system, a good gallery system, that 13%, to provide them with that window of opportunity to try new ideas and to be seen and possibly absorbed by the 45%.
Mm-hmm.
So if we look at this report next year and the 10% from online goes to 6% and the galleries go to 10%, and that dealer, straight from the dealer sales or directly from
Increases.
the artist keeps increasing, but we still have, especially in LA, 200 galleries.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? How many opportunities are for the emerging artists? That's where, I would love the art market report to kind of like dip into, and maybe that's the responsibility of someone else. Um, because that's that's pretty much closing things out.
Right.
How can you develop or discover a new artist if you're not, stumbling upon them in galleries? Or is Instagram the new gallery? Does that matter? Does seeing art in person matter anymore? Can you just say, oh, that piece made me feel a certain way because I hit the like button? Is that all it takes now? And these are
Mm.
questions that are just rhetorical.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
coming at nobody for liking or buying Instagram, or I don't want nobody to think that, but
Yeah.
I still think there's something important about standing in front of an artwork.
Yeah. I agree with you. I'm not going to push back on that. We said it. I said the new museums are probably going to be more digital, but we're still going to be the old school cats that want to go in and actually walk and look and be present with that piece, to see what emotion it invokes in us and how we feel when we're present with it, and all that. Like, get to know the artist more and research them. Like, we would still do that. There's a handful of us, but I
Yeah.
don't know, man, because that, even probably this will be a conversation for season 2, is like, what's happening with degrees in art?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's going on with that? Because it's like, uh you have all these museums and galleries, but like, Are the numbers still going up or are they going down? Are you having more people getting MFAs, BFAs? Are people even going into the business aspect of it? Because it's just like, I'm just gonna say it. 2020 screwed up a lot of things for people and it
Yes.
threw a lot of people off track. So, and I feel like the art world is trying to scramble to save themselves so that they don't go belly up. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And so that's why it's just like, uh, I don't know, bro. I'm kind of in that same position of just like a ton of questions and not a whole lot of answers.
Yeah, I mean, the art world has been moving, well, it's probably already been, but like uh, a full-on sales platform, and I'm talking about all the way up the chain, even from the museum. Museum exhibitions are seemingly put on to increase the popularity or the sellability of the artist at the next auction.
Hmm.
They're not really places for that education anymore, and I don't feel that sense of community, which is why like I usually rip up, any membership things I get from museums in the mail because it's like why do I want to be a part of your patrons club? I don't want to learn anything. I don't want to just come and drink wine with everybody. I want some, artist talks, maybe some workshops here and there. And
Hmm.
I don't think the museum provides that anymore. And, forget most art galleries, like they're busy trying to keep the lights on.
Hmm.
They're not able, to serve the needs of the academic public when it comes to art. And that's sad because I remember growing up, there was a few galleries that did do that where you could go in and you could learn, but how many dealers right now have time to really sit there and teach you or give you background without the hopes of completing a sale at the end?
No, it
That
ain't.
they got to
That's not
stay in that
happening.
45%.
That's
you
not
know
happening. That's
it
not
ain't
happening.
happening at all.
Yeah,
you
man.
know
It's gonna be a struggle fest, but as long as we still have a few solid people fighting for it, it's not
Yeah,
gonna ever bottom out. It's just there needs to be more education on it.
yeah,
Of and the hard part is there needs to be more education on it, but when you get done with that education, what can you do with it?
yeah.
Is that education going to be able to benefit you and put food on your table and give you a sustainable living wage and livelihood? Or is it just something, that you just have a degree in because, you're passionate about it, but it's not paying
Mhm.
you, you
Yeah,
know? So I get it. I get it. It's mad crazy, but whew, we're gonna make it, bro. We're gonna
yeah.
make it. We're gonna make
Big
it. But
facts. I
yeah,
mean,
but
it's like a lot of the important jobs have the hardest road to climb and the
mhm,
lowest pay. I mean, artists, teachers, police officers, school bus drivers,
yeah.
plumbers, people like that, like the plumbers get paid pretty well. But the rest of those, it's like it's always just a fight, for simple acceptance. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I mean, like acceptance, like hiring and appreciation for what they bring. Because we talk about curators and gallery directors and museum directors and teachers and these people that steward education into our communities. Man, there was a time when that person was the most honorable person in the community, the person that could spread knowledge, you
Most
know
respected.
most respected. Where's that gone? Where in these numbers are those people? You know,
I don't think they're even in those numbers, to be honest. I don't think
ain't
so.
in there. So
And
that's
I
just
just
one of those things.
and I had one question for you.
Mhm.
I it was something else that was brought to my attention looking at the survey. Dude, the number of shows from North America to Europe
Mhm.
it's freaking it's a gap, bro. It's huge. It's like a
Yeah,
gaping hole between literally I don't even know. I'm just confused.
it's pretty much double.
Literally, it's double. So I'm just curious. Do you think? us in America, we just have lost a total appreciation for art versus uh, Europe?
No, I think we love art, especially now, just as much.
Do
Um,
you think there's more billionaires in Europe versus America
Maybe
to drive those numbers?
I I don't know. I mean, one thing I will say about Europe, living in London for a bit, is that it doesn't take a billionaire to buy art there. Every household I went into had at least five art pieces.
Okay.
And they weren't always Picasso's and
So the
big
appreciation
name.
is higher.
Oh yeah, it's more a part of the everyday life of the British subject, I should say, than it would be the American. Um, I think a lot of people look at the art world or having art in their home as status. And I think over in Europe is looked at as more as a right or
Mm,
responsibility or privilege even, you know what I mean, to be able to have art, to look at it. I mean, think about it, like the museums and stuff in Europe are free, well, at least in London, they're free. Like the appreciation that art should be,
hmm.
available to everyone is huge. That
Yeah.
a big part of it. So I can look at these numbers and say, hey, the access to art is more requested.
Mm,
You know
okay.
what I mean? And there's other places. I mean, we know, the smaller fairs that we don't hear about, like Art Cologne, in Germany, Paris Art Fair, and a
Mhm.
lot of the different smaller ones that aren't Art Basel or Frieze. They help to circulate some, lesser known names, in Europe around art circles that are doing some really great work. Where in America, I like to think that out of 91 fairs, 60 of them are going to be repeats of artists that we know. We're not going to
Mm,
really discover um anything new. Where over in
mm,
Europe, I think we just might,
mm,
Versace and a few other ones that, promote emerging artists and smaller artists. I think there's a great way to find that next artist over in Europe. It
okay.
needs to be right, better community.
Okay. That that speaking of community, that's a crazy thing that's a crazy word you said because it's I get that. I get the community aspect and I can see that over there. But this leads us into another conversation, Badir.
Oh yeah.
So, we're talking about Discord and the wonderful world of NFT again. Our favorite
NFT
topic for
community.
this uh first season. NFTs have wiggled their ways in some way somehow. And
Always.
so an article from Artnet said, "Good morning, friends. The art world's Discord membership exploded amid the NFT bubble, but can it survive this crypto winter?" What do you think, Badir? Because I know how I feel about it.
I think it can. I just think, I think Discord was kind of thrust onto people in a way that was really cool to learn, but in also in a way that it got really restrictive, and people had to do a whole bunch of different things that they weren't used to just to be a part of it.
Hmm.
Um, and it kind of cooled down. I mean, I had my own Discord. I still do actually. But it was one of those things to where it's like you're now trying to champion people not only to your Discord, but make sure that you keep the information and content inside of this flowing to make it even useful.
Right.
And we understand the benefit of it to, communities. It was, NFT communities, at least, it was the virtual paywall,
Hmm.
for information, whether you bought an NFT and got access, whether you joined a community to meet like minds, or, just getting a message board and just comment photos and images. It was no different, no different. So do I think it can survive? Yeah. But I think it was too tied heavily, at least in the last year, to NFT projects, to where it's maybe its underlying message or reason for being kind of got lost. What do you think?
Huh. So the way I saw Discord was twofold. For many of you who don't know, Discord is a web-based app that allows you to build your own server, which you can make publicly or privately, and it allows you to invite people to join and contribute to whatever idea or topic that you are working on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why a lot of NFTs popped off, because many people were going there to figure out who's the next artist, who's putting out what, who's dropping what. And
Mm-hmm.
now that, if you haven't been paying attention to like stocks and crypto, there's been a lot of a lot of things that have stopped, uprooted many crypto owners, billionaires killing themselves, ending up dead. So it's a lot of it's a lot of unstable. It's very unstable right now.
Yeah, crypto
So
winter.
yeah, it is very unstable for crypto right now. And the way I could see though, and so the other point was I saw crypto as a way, crypto, forgive me. I saw Discord as a way of learning,
Mm-hmm.
because I learned a lot of stuff through using Dolly, which was also on Discord. I got into that and was able to see how, what is this? What is this AI thing that can create art? So I learned what this was. And
Mm-hmm.
then I also learned what a lot of the homegrown apps were made of, out of like, on one, I forgot what it was, one NFT site, they actually had the step by step of how to create, you create one image and how to multiply it, so you get over 1,000 different generated ones. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it could be
Mm-hmm.
a monkey, it could be a wolf, it could be a fish. So they actually had like very teachable moments in there. But I would have to agree with you, Badir, it became this very chaotic
Hell yeah.
place of like people just wanting to know, okay, who's dropping something, when is it dropping, where can we purchase it, who's selling something, because a lot of it became almost like a paid for Reddit, if that
Mm-hmm.
kind of makes
Mm-hmm.
sense, because you could vote up stuff or vote
Yeah.
down things, and you
All
can
types
post
of
your own,
different
like,
emojis.
yeah, you can add emojis and cats blowing heart eyes, like it was crazy, rainbow rhinoceroses. It was just someone threw a
Right.
cat at someone, like it was just wild. So I think it just became this hub of, um let me see who can get on it first, who
Mm-hmm.
has that information first, who's selling what, where is it going to be. It became, um not Discord, forgive me, it became a, oh my gosh, my brain is drunk, Clubhouse before Clubhouse,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. Like, everybody who knows
It
what
does.
Clubhouse is, it's just a, this is Discord. You couldn't hear a person talk, they had to type it. Clubhouse is, you can hear the person talk. Like, that's that's basically what it was, what it
Yeah,
is. And so
they
yeah.
they had, little stuff where they were trying to improve Discord to, and they still are, to make it more usable for communities. But I think their biggest thing, is the community aspect. And, it kind of it grew very quickly. Its
Hmm.
user base jumped very quickly because of these NFT projects. And I'm a part of a few Discord communities that are really, really beneficial. One of them being my own, and the also like the NFT Film Squad, and Rare Pizzas and a few
Uh-huh.
others that do a good job. I mean, just the way these folks manage these communities are insane. It takes a lot of work, to even
Mhm.
just keep up with that and to deal with, spam, and all types of things like that. But I am curious to, if I'm a huge fan of NFTs and blockchain, crypto, all that in general. But what if this crypto winter, stays very cold and long enough for something new to come out? Does that discourse community survive the transition to something new? Or is it just an NFT based community? Sometimes you think about that with art, like if people were saying, hey, I'm an NFT artist, well, no, you're just an artist, because if you stop doing NFTs, are people not going to like your art no more? For some people, the answer is no. They're not going to like your art anymore. Like, there's some
Mhm.
people who only like the NFTs of creators, and that's why some people have a really good shelf life in that digital space that they didn't have in the physical world, and vice
Right.
versa. There's
Hmm.
a lot of artists who sell, mightily in the physical world, but couldn't scratch anything in the NFT space.
Right.
um so for Discord, I think it can survive. I just think it has to possibly refocus, what its values are, and kind of take a step up and say, we're not just for NFTs, we're for businesses, we're for work, we're for,
Yeah.
church communities, we're for, sports clubs, we have features for everybody.
I think it started off like that because many a gamer and
Yeah.
Twitch streamer use Discord. So that's how it
Yeah.
started. But the memberships went through the roof because
Mm,
people were like, oh, I can just create this and charge people $10 a month to stay on this Discord to get random information that may be true, it may not be true. You
yeah.
know what I mean? It was almost like people began recycling stuff they heard for free and then putting it behind a paywall on Discord. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And then to top it off, like you said, dealing with spam, dealing with hackers, because once people found out, oh, people, because you could also trade crypto through this or send your link through this or something like
Oh
that.
yeah, there are so many different third party
Yeah.
add-ons to Discord that you can transfer currency, different tokens,
Yes.
even, make token-based access.
So
You know,
and that right there provides another headache when you have to deal with hackers who are going to spam it and then also hack your account and hack your server. Then it's just like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I don't know. When it hit, it was a very easy get rich quick scheme
Mhm.
through Discord.
Oh yeah.
It hit like that, and then I think the hackers saw it. Once the hackers saw it, then it became this like, is this a scam or is this a real NFT? Am I getting the real thing or am I getting a JPEG or something? Like you had to be very diligent with that. And I just think through all that headache that you had to deal with, then you had to see the bottom fall out of crypto. So
Yeah.
now it's just like, oh, what the hell was I doing? Like, you know.
I mean, think about it. I mean, like, could Discord be looked at like, the gallery system?
Hmm.
Like, there's people that open up galleries, and have, different access points, whether that's Instagram followers, graduate school, MFA. You need to have these prerequisites to be considered for the space. And, maybe that limits the amount of talent that they can bring in. Maybe they miss out on someone that
Hmm.
really wants to be a part of helping you grow because they don't have one of those prerequisites. Or, you know, you get someone that completely, spams it. There's people that, spam galleries too,
Yeah.
curators that just consistently put up the same show, or, spam with the same type of artist. Same thing that happens in galleries happens at Discord, or
Yeah.
the information gets stale. Galleries, they've been stale at times as well. So
Yeah.
I think Discord, with a really cool rebrand, maybe it takes the gamer community.
Yeah.
People thought the NFT community was going to rebrand the art world. You know,
Yeah.
um, Maybe it takes the gamer community to jump back into Discord and, claim it, say, hey, this is ours, and this is how we should use it, and this is how we're going to use it, and usher a new protocol,
Yeah.
a way of doing things. And I mean, there's so many industries that need it, the art world included, just even looking at the numbers that we were looking at, and
Yeah.
still see that it's, a high net worth world,
Yeah.
you know.
I think I when it comes to Discord, bro, I'm just going to be honest. I honestly see it more as a, I don't know, a creator platform versus a NFT selling platform. Because
Agreed.
because I just feel that now that we know what the market is, now that we know what the market can do with NFTs and what how people were being weird, like, oh, I have that JPEG on my desktop, so I own $300 million. It's like, no, no, no. But I think it needs to go back to the creator platform where it was about gamers, where you could share hacks and crazy little stuff, or it could go to a woods craftsman that's sharing blueprints and people can share their blueprints. It needs to go back to where the creator was creating instead of
Yeah.
people just posting like, hey, dropping these NFTs next week, get them before they hit the market. Like things like
Yeah.
that, if that makes sense. I think if it goes back to the creator platform, I think it was originally made for. I don't think you have a problem. But if
Yeah.
it just stays here, hoping crypto is going to revive it, people are going to start canceling their accounts, and then you're going to see a dip in Discord. And then next thing
Yeah.
you know, it becomes the next wannabe. It becomes like the next Twitter, where everything just you don't know you don't know what's truth or fiction. You don't know what's real or Memorex. Like you can't tell any of this stuff apart, and that's going
Yeah.
to be the part that's going to suck real bad for the Discord communities.
Yeah, I think they should, look to other platforms and things like that. One of my favorites, especially being in the tech world as well, is GitHub.
Uh-huh.
What they do, especially for resource management, sharing, and things like that, is like super dope to me. You know what I mean? It's just it's positioned for collaboration and for delivery.
Yes.
Um, and it's 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 coming back for community as well, um to really share different things. I've been able to share different code with my other friends, and fork other code from other projects to learn and to study from. Um so it's a platform of value, and I think if Discord can bring back that value, and mind you, it might not even be Discord's problem. It could just be the individual creator.
Right.
Like the individual creator has to bring that value, but Discord could rebrand itself to bring other users or make itself easier to use or something, to
Yeah.
take it out of that, realm, I guess.
Yeah.
Rebirth itself.
I think it is. I think it's going to find its kick, its step. And I just don't want it to lose it because it is a very valuable tool, like a teaching tool for
Oh
many
yeah.
people. So
Hell
yeah,
yeah. I agree. I agree. It ain't going nowhere. It might, you
lose a
know,
step.
lose a step for a second, but it ain't going nowhere. I mean, think about, all the different things, like, at one point Zoom was, written off, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And we seen what the pandemic did for it. It gave it a whole new life, a whole new rebrand.
right.
And it changed the whole model of what it is. So,
The model of work in school, like
yeah.
telecommunicating, it's crazy now. It's much more functional with like these type of things. So yeah, I
And
agree,
it's so
bro.
much more normal. Like
Right.
people say, "Oh, I'm on Zoom." Like there was a point during the pandemic where, I had like Zoom fatigue. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Because everything was Zoom, 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 Zoom. The same thing, even with probably Discord people. It was like, okay, everything is on Discord. I got to
Discord.
get this with Discord.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
So if people could, if Discord could be rebranded, like we said, as something
Hmm.
that's cool, not something that's a job,
Right.
you know what I mean? Then
Yeah.
it could start itself again.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. All right, but dear, here it is,
Yeah,
brother.
yeah,
We are coming to that time, ladies and gentlemen, everybody's favorite time,
yeah.
our artist spotlight. But dear, who is going to be our artist spotlight for episode number 9?
Today we have the awesome Jack Whitten. Like, I'm a huge fan of Jack Whitten. I always say I'm a huge fan of people because I really am. I love art, but Jack Whitten, like he was just a true like abstract icon. Seen his work so many times. A little background on him. This is from Hauser and Wirth. Born in Bessemer, Alabama in 1939, Jack Whitten is celebrated for his innovative processes of applying paint to the surface of his canvases and transfiguring their material terrains. Although Whitten initially aligned with the New York Circle of Abstract Expressionists active in the 1960s, his work gradually distanced from the movement's aesthetic philosophy and formal concerns, focusing more intensely on the experimental aspects of process and technique that came to define his practice. The subtle visual tempos and formal techniques embedded in Whitten's work speaks to the varied context of his early life. After a brief period of studying medicine at the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama in the late 1950s, Whitten pivoted his attentions to art, first attending the Southern University in Baton Rouge before moving to New York and enrolling at the Cooper Union for the Advancement of Science and Art 1960, where he earned his BFA degree. So this brother wasn't just an artist and a talented brother. He was super smart and, studying medicine and all this dope stuff. And you can see different details and experiments inside of his work that looked like Petri dishes and all of those things, and use unconventional materials and different things to make work. And, just rest in peace to a legend, Jack Whitten. And some of our favorite painters come from the school of Jack Whitten, one of them being Mark Bradford. And, I can see a lot of Jack Whitten and Mark Bradford's work, and it's just dope to see that tradition carried on.
Yes. And you know what I've noticed throughout these artist spotlight is that many of these creators, they did more than one thing.
They had to.
they had to, but they were almost experts in another field and just became very talented within painting and art and creating and collaging. And it's just like they created out of necessity. And you can see it in their work, and they're detailed, and it's just it's dope. I'm proud of my people. I'm proud of these artists, and it's just phenomenal to see and hear the background that a lot of these creators come from and how they are still affecting people and artists of today. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah. Big time. Like I think that's one of the keys. And, next week we'll talk about, what artists should be doing, while the art world is on vacation. And that's one of those things that I would say is that, being able to study the artists that came before you and just see, what these artists and curators and dealers, went through. Like, it's important, especially for growth. Yes.
Well, big ups to Jack Whitten. It was a pleasure to research you, man, and get to know your work. And before we sign off today, ladies and gentlemen, we just want to say, thank you guys for helping us and supporting us and listening to us and sharing our stuff. The holidays are going to be coming up. So by the time this drops, a lot of you guys will be experiencing Christmas and with your family and friends and loved ones. And we just want to say, you know what? Enjoy that time. Be present with those family members, because as you can tell through a lot of our artist spotlights, many of these people have passed on. And that intentional practice of being present is going to be super huge during this time of the season, where everybody can come back together. Families are going to be together for the first time, maybe in years. So we just want to say, happy holidays to you and your family. And we appreciate you guys.
Big facts.
So my name is Justin Robinson.
And I'm Badir McCleary.
We are the Art School graduates, and we'll see y'all next week. Peace.